The Lord be with you, and also with you. I wonder, what is your favourite book? Perhaps it's one of the Harry Potter series. Maybe it's Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Maybe it's something by David Walliams. I wonder, why is it your favourite? Is it because it's exciting or funny? Or maybe both? And I wonder, who is the best character in the book? Max Jones, he has a favourite book, and that's all about Captain Stupendous. And we're going to hear the next bit of the story shortly. But first, let's see if we can remember the answer to all of the riddles so far. The first riddle was this. What's brown, has a head and a tail, but no legs? Oh, that was a coin. Then we had, what lives in a corner but travels the world? That was a stamp. Our next one was, feed me and I live, give me a drink and I die, what am I? That was fire. After that, the next riddle was, what starts with T, ends with T and has tea in it? Which was a teapot. And then, what gets wetter as it dries? That was a towel. The riddle we asked last time was this one. What has hands and a face, but no arms and legs? Let's find out in the next episode of Max and the Mission Map. Max stood in front of the small wardrobe in the bedroom that he shared with his sister Phoebe and examined the contents. Max wasn't really that interested in clothes, although he did have a Captain Stupendous t-shirt which he thought he looked really good in. He'd worn it loads of times though, and now it was beginning to look a little bit faded. Max thought that the best thing about the wardrobe was the inside of the doors. And that was because on one side were pictures of Captain Stupendous, some aliens, and the Space Detective's spaceship, the Fantastic. On the inside of the other door, fixed with sticky tape at each corner, was the Captain Stupendous poster that Max's grandma had made for him. Grandma had challenged Max to use all of Captain Stupendous Space Detective's super detection skills to work out the answers to riddles that she had given him. Every time Max solved a riddle, Grandma gave him a sticker to put on his poster. Max now had 6 of them. One said mission accepted, and the others had a picture of a planet on them and were numbered from 1 to 5. What has a face and hands but no arms and legs? That was the current riddle. Max had drawn an alien that had a huge smiling face with 2 hands that came straight out from its head, but they'd ended up looking a bit like ears. And when Max had shown Grandma, she had laughed and said it was an excellent picture, but it wasn't the answer to the riddle. So now Max was deciding what he was going to wear to school, because today was World Book Day. Max had been discussing with some of the other children in his class what they were going to dress up as. It seemed that lots of them were going as wizards and witches. The twins in his class, though, had decided they were both going to be Alice in Wonderland, which was going to be a bit confusing. Max's sister Phoebe had been dressing up in something different every evening this week. She couldn't make her mind up. This morning, she'd put on a swimming costume and bits of red wool that she'd glued onto her swimming cap as she'd decided to be Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Max thought that was cheating a bit, as The Little Mermaid was a film, but Phoebe had indignantly shown Max her Little Mermaid colouring book and Max knew that it was no use arguing. Max had put on his Captain Stupendous t-shirt. He didn't have a spacesuit, but he had made a helmet from a cardboard box. He'd cut the front out and covered it all with silver foil. That was going to have to be good enough. He was sure, though, he'd be the only boy in the whole school who was dressed up as a space detective. When he arrived, Max had sat down in his class and looked round at all the other children. The twins both had pigtails and were carrying matching, grinning, cuddly cats. Marcus was wearing a pointed wizard's hat, and James was struggling to hold on to a huge beach ball that he painted to look like a peach. Max grinned. He couldn't wait for assembly so he could see what everyone else in the school had dressed up as well. He was sure that his class would look better than all the others. That morning, though, everything seemed to take a really long time. Max usually enjoyed his lessons, but this morning it felt like it was taking forever. Max had stared at some numbers on a worksheet for ages, and then looked up at the large clock on the wall. The hands on the clock face might have been absolutely stationary. Max thought that perhaps he'd entered into some kind of space vortex where time stood still and the clock didn't move. Max looked up at the clock again, and as he did so, there was a barely audible click as the longer hand on the clock moved round from 1 minute to the next. Phew, thought Max, time hasn't stopped. If only I could get those two hands to move a little bit faster, assembly could be here in no time at all. Max concentrated really hard on the clock. Perhaps if he thought hard enough, he could make it go faster. He stared at the minute hand. He stared at the hour hand, and then he stared really hard at the whole clock face. "Of course," he said, a little bit louder than he had intended to. "Are you okay, Max?" asked his teacher. "Sorry, Miss Johnson," said Max. "I just worked out the answer to a question." "I think everyone has worked out the answers to questions this morning," said Mrs. Johnson. "Everyone else has managed to keep quiet about it, though. No more talking till assembly, please." Even though assembly was excellent and all the costumes looked awesome, the day couldn't end soon enough for Max. As soon as he got home, he ran through the door and shouted, "A clock! A clock!" Grandma looked up from her table as Max burst into the kitchen. "Do you want to know the time, Max?" she asked. "No," said Max. "A clock. A clock has a face and hands, but no arms or legs." "Well done," said Grandma, and she put her hand into her handbag and took out a sticker. "I think the next riddle is going to take you even longer," she said. "What goes through towns, up and down hills, but never moves?" Max thought that he would never take his Captain Stupendous outfit off. He had solved a riddle when he had it on, so surely, if he kept wearing it, he'd have an answer in no time at all. So, I wonder, what was your favourite parts of the story? I wonder, why was it that Max wanted the time to go quicker? And I wonder, can you make yourself into someone else by dressing up like them? One of the books in the Bible is called the Psalms, and it's got some poetry written by lots of different people hundreds of years ago. In Psalm 139, there's some words that start like this. "You searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. What the writer was saying was that God knows everything about us. He's known us since before we were born. He loves us and cares for us. So it doesn't matter what we look like. It doesn't matter how tall we are, how short we are. It doesn't matter what we wear, or even if we're dressing up as another character. God knows us just the same. Let's say a prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you that you know us and love us completely. Help us to love you too. Amen. We're going to sing a song now. The song is Shine.
Shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. Shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. You know me and you love me, you fill me, so send me to shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. Shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. Shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. Shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. Know me, love me, fill me, send me. Know me, love me, fill me, send me. Oh, know me, love me, fill me, send me. To shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. Shine from the inside out, that the world will see you live in me. You know me and you love me, you fill me, so send me. Know me, love me, fill me, send me. Know me, love me, fill me, send me. Know me, love me, fill me, send me. To shine.
I hope you've enjoyed this collective worship today, and you can join us next time. Go in peace. Thanks be to God.